It was late December, and the grand holiday party for a major corporation was in full swing. The ballroom was filled with glittering lights, elegantly dressed executives, and the kind of carefully arranged music that played more as background noise than anything else. A tall Christmas tree stood in the corner, ornaments glistening under crystal chandeliers. Employees mingled with champagne glasses in hand, their laughter echoing through the room. Among the servers, caterers, and staff keeping the event running smoothly was Daniel, a janitor who had worked in the company's building for years. A quiet man in his late 30s, he was known by some of the office workers for his polite nods, steady work ethic, and the way he always seemed a little tired yet never complained. Few knew his story. Daniel was a single father raising his 10-year-old daughter, Emma, after losing his wife unexpectedly 3 years earlier. Between his long shifts and her school, he tried his best to balance everything, often sacrificing his own rest to make sure she never felt she lacked anything. As the party carried on, someone noticed the glossy black grand piano tucked in the corner of the room. It had been rented to give the ballroom an extra touch of elegance, but so far no one had played it. A few employees laughed and began daring one another to sit and perform. Their eyes eventually landed on Daniel, who was quietly replacing trash bags along the wall. "Hey, Daniel," one of them called out jokingly, "why don't you play us something on the piano?" The suggestion drew chuckles. Most assumed he wouldn't even know how to play, and the invitation was more of a joke than anything else. But to their surprise, Daniel paused. He placed his trash bag down carefully, walked over to the piano, and without a word, sat down. The room quieted slightly, curiosity replacing amusement. At first, he simply rested his fingers on the keys, closing his eyes as if he were stepping into another world. Then he began to play. Soft, soulful notes filled the room, the kind that seemed to hush every laugh and conversation. His hands moved with ease, shaping chords into something both tender and powerful. The music rose and fell with a kind of storytelling only someone who had lived through deep loss and quiet hope could create. What started as a gentle melody grew into something breathtakingly emotional. Every note carried weight, every pause seemed intentional. Conversation stopped completely. Executives who moments earlier had been discussing year-end reports and bonuses now stood still, their eyes drawn to the janitor at the piano. Many felt a lump in their throat, an ache they couldn't explain. Even the waitstaff froze to listen. At the front of the room, the company's CEO, a man known for his commanding presence and composed demeanor, slowly took off his glasses. By the time Daniel reached the crescendo, the CEO's eyes shimmered with tears. He wasn't alone. Several others were wiping their faces, caught off guard by the raw beauty of what they were hearing. When the final note lingered in the air and faded into silence, the ballroom erupted into applause, not polite but thunderous, heartfelt. People rose to their feet, clapping, cheering, some even shouting, "Bravo!" Daniel, however, simply stood, gave a small nod of gratitude, and began to walk back to his cleaning cart as if nothing extraordinary had happened. The CEO stopped him. He walked across the room, shook Daniel's hand firmly, and said, "You've given us something tonight we'll never forget. Thank you." His voice cracked slightly, betraying the depth of his emotion. It turned out that Daniel had studied piano passionately in his youth. Music was once his dream, but life had pulled him in a different direction. Bills, responsibilities, and later, the weight of raising his daughter alone meant that music became something private, something he played only at home for Emma, who loved falling asleep to his melodies. That night, however, the world had caught a glimpse of the beauty he carried quietly within him. What had started as a light-hearted dare became a moment that touched every soul in the room. In the weeks that followed, Daniel's story spread through the company. Employees spoke of him with newfound respect, and some even suggested starting a music program for employees' families, inspired by his performance. The CEO, still moved by the memory, arranged for Daniel to play at future events, not as a janitor, but as a featured pianist, paid and celebrated for his gift. For Daniel, the recognition was humbling, but what mattered most was the way his daughter looked at him after hearing about it. "I always knew you were amazing, Dad," Emma told him, hugging him tightly. And for Daniel, that was worth more than any applause. What had begun as a joke became a reminder that greatness often hides in plain sight, in people we pass by every day without ever knowing the depth of their stories. And sometimes, all it takes is a single moment, a single song, to reveal it.